Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News on India's Voice to the World. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. US President-elect Donald Trump threatens 100% tariff on BRICS nations if they undercut US dollar. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad vows to defeat the terrorists after rebels sweep into Aleppo. Russia conducts strikes in support of President Assad. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends the All India Conference of Director Generals, Inspector Generals of Police in Bhubaneswar, discusses various subjects on policing and security. All ISKCON temples and communities around the world to organize special prayers for all religious minorities in Bangladesh. And rain slash Tamil Nadu, Puducherry as cyclonic storm Fangel makes landfall. Weather Office warns of continuous rainfall for the next 2 to 3 days. In World Chess Championship, India's D. Gukesh will square off against Chinese counterpart Ding Liren. Series tied at 2.5 each after Game 5. US President-elect Donald Trump warned BRICS countries against replacing the US dollar, threatening them with 100% tariffs. Trump also sought a commitment from these countries to not creating a new BRICS currency nor support any other currency. Trump made these remarks in his social media platform Truth Social. Meanwhile, Donald Trump on Saturday added new names to his team, nominating New York real estate developer Charles Kushner as US ambassador to France. Kushner, who is the father of Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was also a member in the first term of Trump administration. In 2004, Kushner was sentenced for 2 years after pleading guilty of 18 counts, including tax evasion and making illegal campaign donations. However, he was pardoned by Trump during his first term as president in 2020. Donald Trump nominated Kash Patel as director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Announcing his nomination, Trump in social media post said Kash is a brilliant lawyer, investigator, and America First fighter. Further, Trump highlighted his role in exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people. Moving on, in Ireland, Prime Minister Simon Harris and Deputy Prime Minister Michael Martin celebrated on Saturday as their parliamentary seats were declared during counting after Friday's general election. Figures from a tally by Virgin Media News showed Fangel and Fianna Fáil were on 20.5% and 21.9% in first preference votes, with left-wing Sinn Féin on 19.1%. The two centre-right parties looked set to return to power, but will likely need at least one smaller partner to secure a majority. A clear outline of final seat numbers will emerge by Sunday. Iceland's Social Democratic Alliance is taking the lead, surpassing the ruling Independence Party as per the early results of snap legislative elections. Icelanders voted on Saturday to elect a new parliament after Prime Minister Bjarni Benediktsson dissolved parliament in October this year following the collapse of three-party coalition government. The key fight in the snap polls is between the Liberal Reform Party, Social Democratic Alliance and the Independence Party, with economy as a top concern for voters. Violent clashes erupted on Saturday outside Georgia's parliament between police and demonstrators protesting the government's decision to delay European Union membership talks amid a post-election crisis. Thousands of people gathered in Georgia's capital Tbilisi on Saturday for a third night of protests that saw dozens arrested. More than 100 people have been arrested in the last 2 days. The unrest in the region begins after Prime Minister's announcement on Thursday that Georgia would not seek accession talks with the EU until 2028 ignited a furious reaction from the opposition. Chaotic scenes unfolded for hours as police chased defiant protesters through the streets of central Tbilisi, beating them and making arrests. Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili says she will not step down until last month's contested parliamentary elections are rerun, claiming it is her constitutional duty to bring the country down the European integration path. The comments came as thousands of people gather in Georgia's capital Tbilisi for a third night of protests against the government's decision to postpone European Union membership talks until 2028.
It's my duty. I've been elected for that, to serve this country. I'm elected also to preserve the Constitution, which clearly in its Article 78 says that we have to go down the European Euro integration path, and that's what has to be preserved. That is why the people are going out on the streets.
Whereas a Georgian Prime Minister has stated that the government will not allow a revolution following protest against his decision to freeze Georgia's EU accession process. He accused opponents of the halt to EU accession of plotting a revolution along the lines of Ukraine's 2014 Maidan protest, referring to the chaos that the Maidan protests brought to Ukraine.
In the last 4 years alone, we have seen 2 attempts from overseas to stage and finance a revolution, but both failed. Today, the opposition strength is even further reduced. As a result, the third attempt at a revolution will fail too. In Georgia, of course, there will be no Maidan. You know what Maidan has brought to Ukraine? Some people want a repeat of that scenario in Georgia, but there will be no Maidan in Georgia. Today's Georgia is in no sense that Ukraine of 2013, and that's why the Maidan scenario will not be realized.
The European Union on Saturday denounced the explosion at a key Kosovo canal in Serbia a terrorist act. The bloc's top diplomat Josep Borrell said in a statement. EU diplomat Josep Borrell condemned the attack, calling it a despicable act of sabotage. He emphasized that the canal is crucial for providing drinking water to a large part of Kosovo's population and is essential for the country's energy system. Recovery efforts are ongoing at a water canal in northern Kosovo, which was damaged by an explosion. Moving on, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad said on Saturday that his country could defeat all terrorists and their backers after rebels seized dozens of towns and overran most of Syria's second city of Aleppo. This is being viewed as the biggest challenge to President Bashar al-Assad in years. United States is monitoring the situation and has blamed Assad's reliance on Russia and Iran for loss of Aleppo control. More in this report.
The situation in Syria appears to be in a very volatile state. Rebel forces in Syria have taken control of most of the country's second largest city, Aleppo. This is according to the UK-based monitoring group, Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOHR. The SOHR reports that over 300 people, including more than 20 civilians, have been killed since the offensive started on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the Syrian military said that dozens of its troops had been killed during an insurgent attack in northwestern Syria and that rebels had managed to enter large parts of Aleppo city, forcing the army to redeploy. The Syrian military statement was the first public acknowledgement by the army that insurgents led by the Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham had entered the government-held city of Aleppo in a surprise attack that began earlier this week. This was the first such attack by rebels in 8 years. On Friday, Russia had urged the Syrian government to restore constitutional order in the Aleppo region as soon as possible. However, seeing the situation worsen, Russia launched airstrikes in parts of Aleppo overnight on Saturday. So let's try to understand this conflict. The Kurdish-dominated Syrian Defense Forces controls most of northeastern Syria. It regularly clashes with Arab tribes that accuse the group of discrimination. Turkey and its proxies also control areas along the northern border and have ramped up attacks on Kurdish forces. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad now controls about 70% of Syria's territory. Turkish troops have been involved in ground operations against the Islamic State since 2016 and have launched attacks against armed Kurdish groups in Syria. When the civil war began in 2011, there were four main factions of fighting groups throughout the country. They are Kurdish forces, ISIS, other oppositions such as Jaish al-Fatah and the Assad regime. The ongoing violence against civilians has been condemned by the Arab League, the European Union, the United States, and other countries. Nearly 5.5 million Syrian refugees live in the 5 countries neighboring Syria: Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt. Germany is the largest non-neighboring host country with more than 850,000 Syrian refugees. Over the years, the conflict has evolved into a complex war involving jihadists and foreign powers. While the Syrian army has regained control of most of the territory it lost earlier in the war, the area where jihadists and their allies are based has been under the truce since 2020. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, the foreign ministers of Iran and Russia voiced support for Syria on Saturday. Iran's Abbas Araghchi told Russia's Sergei Lavrov in a phone call that the attacks were part of an Israeli-US plan to destabilize the region. Iran's allies in the region have suffered a series of blows at the hands of Israel as the Gaza conflict has expanded through the West Asia. The ministers agreed on the need to intensify joint efforts aimed at stabilizing the situation in Syria. Earlier on Saturday, Russia's Lavrov spoke on the matter with his Turkish counterpart Hakan Fidan. While Turkish security officials had said on Thursday that Ankara had prevented operations which opposition groups wanted to organize in order to avoid further tensions in the region. Updates on West Asia conflict now. 2 aid workers were killed in Israeli airstrikes in Gaza on Saturday, while Israel said it had killed the terrorist who took part in the October 7, 2023 Hamas attacks. The first was a World Central Kitchen member who was hit in a vehicle in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The Israeli military said he had taken part in the attack on kibbutz near Oz in southern Israel and was under surveillance. World Central Kitchen confirmed the airstrike and said it had no knowledge about an employee involved in the October 7, 2023 attack. The charity group said it was pausing operations in Gaza, adding that it was working with incomplete information and was urgently seeking more details. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Over 100 nations push for plastic production limits amid tense treaty talks. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te arrives in Hawaii. More details ahead. We will update you about snowstorms in New York and Pennsylvania.
We are living in times where things are changing at an unforeseen pace. And at the forefront of many of these positive changes are strong individuals who are looking towards the future.
Through the stories I tell, I try and sort of reignite that intuitive sense of how close we are to nature and how much there is to learn from it.
Organic farming, it also helps you not only reduce the carbon footprint, but also help adapt because you are promoting natural farming.
Very lightweight, but it makes you feel that you don't have to eat too much. In this NFT channel, we use net cups with cocoa peats on it. This helps to penetrate the roots. There will be nutritious water flowing through the channel that supplies essential nutrients for the plant.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And followers of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness worldwide will organize special prayers for the safety and security of all religious minorities in Bangladesh. The ISKCON made the appeal in response to widespread protests in Bangladesh following the arrest of monk Chinmoy Krishnadas in a sedition case. He was denied bail on Tuesday. The protests, primarily by Hindu community members, have occurred across various locations in Bangladesh, including Dhaka and Chattogram. Business community in Bangladesh on Saturday said the interim government has failed to tackle the country's law and order situation. Leaders expressed their concerns at a business conference organized by Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Dhaka. They said it will be difficult to maintain the economy if the situation does not improve soon. Managing Director of BRAC Bank said though the government is trying to rebuild the institutions which were destroyed over the years, but the government has failed to handle the law and order situation. While Incepta Pharmaceuticals Chairman Abdul Muqtadir Rahman said that the law and order situation has declined sharply and government must fix a timeline to fix the situation. And DD India correspondent Naval Sangh Parmar joins us from Dhaka. Hi Naval Sangh, tell us about the current situation there first of all.
Yeah, the law and order situation here in Bangladesh is quite deteriorated. And as you mentioned, that the business leaders and the business community here in Bangladesh also raised a serious concern about the law and order situation. They urged government, interim government led by Professor Yunus, to fix the issue related to the law and order situation in Bangladesh, because many of the section of society are not happy and they have their grievances, and they don't have other grievance redressal mechanisms, so they are coming on the street. At the same time, the issue related to safety and security of minority is also a big issue here, and in last week there were protests and counter-protests, and now the Chinmay Prabhu, who was leading the voice of minorities here in Bangladesh, is now behind the bar under the case of sedition in Bangladesh. So in totality, the situation is for law and order situation and the economic situation or the general feelings of the people here in Bangladesh is that this government is somehow not fulfilling the aspiration of the people.
Okay, and Naval Sangh, since you talked about the voice of minorities there, does there seem to be any action or assistance from the government to ensure the safety and security of minorities?
Yes, post incidents of Chittagong, it seems that the government is a bit serious about the safety and security of minority, though there are many incidents occurred in last 2-3 days. One is in Chittagong and one is in the North Bangladesh. They vandalized the Mazar-e-Sharif in the Sherpur district. And other incidents are sporadic incidents occurring here and there in Bangladesh. So the government bit sensitive about the law and order situation, particularly related to the minorities. After the voice raised by the global communities in India and other part of the world. So
okay.
Government is trying to mitigate the challenges they are facing in that front.
Okay, Naval Sangh, also tell us about the protests there, where all the protests are happening and where all the protests are likely to take place.
In Bangladesh, due to tense situation and the government is not giving permission to out rallies or that kind of procession here in Bangladesh. So in Bangladesh, from minority side, there are few chances that some of the small towns they may have some protests or rally, but otherwise in international arena globally, in the developed countries and the European countries and where the ISKCON is having a stronghold, including Russia and other countries, they are announced that they will took out processions and rallies in favor of minorities and against the atrocities on the minorities and the safety and security. They will raise the concern about the safety and security of the minorities.
All right, we leave it there. Thank you so much, Naval Sangh Parmar, for your inputs.
Thank you.
In Pakistan, the spectre of sectarian violence continues to haunt the country, with fresh clashes in the Kurram district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, leaving a trail of death and despair. Despite repeated attempts at ceasefires, peace remains elusive in the region. Here's a report by Mihin Maikhuri on the unfolding tragedy. Take a look.
The simmering cauldron of sectarian violence in northwest Pakistan has claimed 13 more lives. Sunnis and Shiites in Kurram district are locked in deadly feuding that has now surged the death toll to 124, with over 50 others wounded. Despite 2 attempted ceasefires in the past week, fighting continues unabated. Tensions escalated last Thursday when convoys of Shiite Muslims traveling with police protection were ambushed. The attacks, which killed over 40, reignited decades-old sectarian tensions in the Sunni-majority nation of Pakistan, where Kurram stands out with its significant Shiite population. 10 days of relentless violence have paralyzed the region. Roads remain blocked, and mobile networks are down, adding to the chaos. Local authorities confirm that mistrust between Sunni and Shiite tribes has thwarted efforts to enforce ceasefires. Security forces have struggled to control the violence, while fears of further fatalities loom large. On the other hand, those who wish to flee remain trapped by the deteriorating security situation. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan reports nearly 80 sectarian deaths in the district from July to October alone, highlighting a chronic failure to address the underlying causes. The tragedy in Kurram reflects a broader challenge for Pakistan, a nation grappling with sectarian rifts, weak governance, and unfulfilled promises of peace. As violence continues to claim innocent lives, the question remains, how many more must suffer before lasting solutions are found? Mihir Makri, reporting for DD India.
The consumer prices in Sri Lanka fell by 2.1% in November, the highest deflation rate recorded by the economically fragile island nation since 1961. The drop comes as the nation continues its recovery from a severe financial crisis that wreaked havoc on its economy in 2022. Sri Lanka's recovery has been supported by a $2.9 billion bailout package from the International Monetary Fund. In addition, austerity measures such as increased taxes, reduced government spending, and energy price adjustments have helped stabilize the economy. These reforms have also led to a gradual decline in prices over recent months, with deflation of 0.5% recorded in September and 0.8% in October. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka attributed the November deflation primarily to falling energy prices and a reduction in volatile food prices. In a statement, it projected that headline inflation would remain negative in the coming months before stabilizing around its target of 5%. All right, and to talk more on this, DD India's Dr. Ahmed Moeen Faruqi joins us from Colombo. Hello, Dr. Faruqi. What factors contributed most to the 2.1% deflation in Sri Lanka in November?
Siddharth, frankly speaking, yes, you see, this deflation is something which has been going on for the last 2 months plus. In fact, this is the 3rd month running that Sri Lanka is witnessing a negative territory inflation rate. And that is something quite surprising, especially after the kind of economic crisis that Sri Lanka witnessed in 2022. In fact, the central bank believes that this is not a deflation which is harmful, but it is more so something which is seen as a correction in the inflationary kind of trend that has been witnessed in the island. A major chunk of the contribution was, if we see the month-on-month trend, it was from the food items. However, if we see the year-on-year trend, then it is visible and it is clearly evident that it is from the non-food items, primarily the housing, energy, and other fuel charges. And that is something which is a very, very big, remarkable change, because that shows that over the last 1 year, the prices have more so remained constant, or they have moved now towards a cheaper kind of a trend. But that said, it is very important to note that the index, which was 189.4 last year, now it is around the same level. In fact, it is just 0.1, which is more than what was witnessed last year. While we speak about this, it is still important to note that the runaway inflation that was witnessed in 2022, reaching high levels of about 70%, which also included a food inflation of around 100% at that point of time. The effects of those are still visible even to this day as the common man grapples with the cost of living. And this is where the governor of the central bank had earlier this week said that this is not actually harmful, but this will actually be beneficial in terms of bringing down the cost of living for the common man in the long term. In fact, the governor had also said that there will be a possibility that the negative territory inflation rate will continue till middle of next year, and later on in the medium term, it will go towards a positive territory. Siddharth.
All right. Dr. Farokhi, now what's the current outlook for Sri Lanka's economy and what are the challenges it still faces despite the deflationary trend?
It's a very important area, Siddharth. You see, primarily speaking, the central bank is someone which decides how the monetary policy and various other policies have to be tuned to combat effects of inflation. And this is what they have been doing over the last 2 years. In fact, the open market operations which the central bank resorts to with regard to managing the foreign exchange reserves as well as with regard to maintaining its own currency flows, that is something which has an impact on the inflationary rate. And as per their current open market operations and their outlook, it is informed to everyone that the inflationary trend will continue to remain in the similar negative territory till June, July next year. And thereafter, it will gradually start moving toward their target area of around 3 to 5%. However, what they're expecting is that in the medium to long term, the prices will they will ease further because there is going to be a growth in terms of the economy itself in Sri Lanka. In fact, if we have to remember, 2022, there was a contraction in the GDP by about 7.8% and even by about 2% in 2023. This year, however, in 2024 is expected to show a positive growth of about 4% for the first time ever after the economic crisis. And the central bank hopes that the growth will continue in the same manner, and this will help the common man in coming out of the difficult circumstances that they have seen over the last 2 years. That said, the inflationary rate will hopefully go according to what they have been anticipating, because they have laid out a path and they are hoping to stick on to that. In fact, in the given direction, they have now done away with the dual policy rates which will define the monetary policy, and they have adopted a single policy rate starting from 27th of November. It is called as overnight policy rate, which has replaced the SDFR and SLFR, the deposit and lending fixed rates. And this is something which has been done in accordance with the recommendations of IMF. IMF is closely monitoring the developments in Sri Lanka. In fact, in the recently completed third review, the IMF had noted that Sri Lanka has been doing remarkably well in terms of adhering to the targets, and they hope that the same trend will continue and it will be a positive development for the economy to come out of the crisis and on the path of recovery. Siddharth.
All right, we leave it there. Thank you so much, Dr. Farokhi, for your analysis. Negotiators on a treaty to curb plastic pollution face tough debate on the last day of scheduled talks in South Korea. The fifth and final UN Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee meeting to yield a legally binding global treaty is set to wrap up in Busan on Sunday, but a final plenary session has not been set. Countries remained far apart on Sunday morning on the basic scope of treaty. An option proposed by Panama, backed by over 100 countries, would
are not convenience. Plastics are poison. Every piece that we allow to produce without limits is a direct assault on our health, on our nature, and our children. For those blocking progress, you are allowing this crisis to fester, and it will kill us. This is just not a treaty about plastics. This is humanity's lie on the sand. If we don't get an ambitious treaty out of Busan, it will be a global betrayal.
Or what we expect from an ambitious treaty, then we'll come back to the multilateral process and go back to the same process pushing for an ambitious treaty. Like we've said, and like all of us in this table have said, nobody is going to leave Busan with a weak treaty. Nobody is going to accept a weak treaty.
Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te began a two-day U.S. stopover in Hawaii on Saturday as part of a Pacific tour. Lai will be in Hawaii first for 2 days before going to Marshall Islands, Tuvalu and Palau, 3 of the 12 countries which retain former diplomatic ties with Taipei. This is Lai's first foreign trip since taking office in May. Earlier, talking to media, the Taiwanese president declared his democratically governed island a key force for promoting global peace and stability.
This trip is the beginning of a new era of value-based diplomacy. Democracy, prosperity and peace are the expectations of the people of Taiwan, and they are also the values that I, as president, must actively promote. I will continue to expand cooperation and deepen our partnership with friends and neighbors based on the values of democracy, peace and prosperity, so that the world can see that Taiwan is not only a model of democracy, but also a key force in promoting global peace, stability and prosperity.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Delhi Aam Aadmi Party MLA Naresh Balyan arrested in extortion case. India is celebrating its Border Security Forces Raising Day today. The Indian Navy is getting up for a grand Navy Day celebration at Puri Beach on December 4th.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday discussed various security-related issues with top police officials and chiefs of different security agencies, attending the All India Director Generals and Inspector Generals of Police conference being held in Bhubaneswar. The Prime Minister also discussed various operational and infrastructural-related issues faced by police. The DGPs and IGPs of different states and union territories presented a roadmap of their respective states and UTs for tackling challenges related to crime control, law and order management. Home Minister Amit Shah, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Union Home Secretary Govind Mohan were also in attendance. The Delhi Police Crime Branch on Saturday arrested Aam Aadmi Party leader and member of Legislative Assembly Naresh Balyan in connection with an alleged extortion case. According to officials, the Aam Aadmi Party MLA was arrested after an investigation revealed an audio clip of a conversation between Balyan and gangster Kapil Sangwan. The conversation allegedly involved discussions about the collection of ransom money from businessmen. Further investigation of the case is in progress. Weather updates now. Southern India's Puducherry is facing a critical flood-like situation due to heavy rainfall after cyclonic storm Fangel made landfall late Saturday night. Most areas of the city have been inundated with water, with significant water levels reaching knee-deep heights in central areas, including White Town and Nehru Street. The electrical supply has been completely disrupted and mobile communication are severely impacted. The urban infrastructure is under immense strain, with transportation and daily activities coming to a standstill. However, the government has initiated intensive rescue operations and is actively relocating citizens to safer locations. The Indian Army carried out a rescue operation early on Sunday, successfully evacuating more than 100 stranded civilians from flood-affected areas of Puducherry. The cyclone also brought heavy rains and gusty winds to various parts of Tamil Nadu, causing severe waterlogging and disrupting transportation across Chennai and nearby areas. Meanwhile, Chennai Airport resumed operations early on Sunday, which had been temporarily suspended due to the impact of the cyclone. The India Meteorological Department in its latest update said the cyclonic storm is likely to remain in Tamil Nadu and weaken into a deep depression. DD India correspondent Anbarsan Lango joins us to give us more inputs on what's happening in Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. He's joining us from Tamil Nadu. Anbarsan, tell us about the situation there right now, where you are.
The latest update from Indian Meteorological Department, the Cyclone Fengal that has landed yesterday night onwards, the center point in Puducherry just now weakened into a deep depression, and it's going towards a west trajectory like a Coimbatore region. And this significant cyclone has given a rainfall of nearly 48 centimeters of rainfall into Puducherry itself. So there is a heavy rainfall across Puducherry region. The city fully submerged into water, particularly the low-lying area of Puducherry and also the nearby areas of Kottakuppam and also Krishna Nagar, where the rescue operation by Indian Army. Nearly 150 people are evacuated via boats by Indian Army, and also the whoever low-lying area staying, they are evacuated. They sent to the safer places and established rescue and relief centers by the government. And particularly the Chennai region, where the rainfall from last 24 hours, not that much significant rainfall is registered. So that's why the Chennai International Airport also resumed flight services. And also Chennai suburban network railway services are all begin in all lines. And so the normal transportation on Chennai city came to normal situation. But the Puducherry situation is still difficulty. The electricity department has said that due to electrification, they can't give electricity to that Puducherry, various parts of Puducherry. So people are struggling with that, and also there is not that much of mobile signals, and also the essential like milk and various products people are not able to get. So that is the situation from Puducherry, and the Indian Navy and also the Indian Army are in full swing on rescue and relief activities in Puducherry. And this cyclone Fangel has weakened us to a deep depression. It's going towards the westward. So the heavy rainfall also can be registered across 7 districts of Tamil Nadu, particularly Salem, where we are right now, and also towards Coimbatore. So they given Indian Meteorological Department has given a red alert to these interior districts of Tamil Nadu, and it will be go towards the west, and it will be significantly weakened, and it will reach the Arabic Ocean. That is the latest update on Cyclone Fengal.
Okay, and Anbarsan, how are the local authorities responding to the flooding and the cancellation of flights and train services? We heard that flight services are resumed now.
Yeah. Nearly around 155 flights are cancelled yesterday itself. And today the Airport Authority of India had said that the people who are going to travel in flights, they can check with their airline services, confirm with that, then they will reach the airport. So because a lot of services are cancelled, and some inbound flights also diverted into various nearby airports. So they can confirm with the local airline authorities to reach the location. And in Puducherry itself, the places surrounding the Puducherry, particularly the Villupuram, Dindivanam areas and all severely affected. And water is inundated various parts, particularly the Dindivanam bus stand, where the center point of transportation between Chennai and Puducherry. So the Department of State officials are in full swing to first rescue the people from the low-lying areas, and after that the relief materials and withdrawing the water and the various works will be continued.
All right, we leave it there. Thank you so much, Anbarsan, for your analysis. Another weather updates from across the world now. The first big snowstorm of the season hits Pennsylvania, threatening to bury towns along Lakes Erie and Ontario during a hectic holiday travel and shopping weekend. An Arctic outbreak of cold air will expand south and east and bring dangerously cold wind chills into the northern plains and upper Midwest, while heavy lake effect snow could make travel very difficult to impossible into next week. The National Weather Service issued a lake effect snow warning for Erie until Tuesday. New York and several states in the US experienced heavy snowstorms under a lake effect According to the National Weather Service, lake effect snow occurs when cold air moves across the open waters of the Great Lakes. Authorities have reported winter alerts for parts of Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania and New York State for this weekend. Palandöken Ski Center in Erzurum, Turkey kicked off its winter season ahead of schedule following significant snowfall, with the municipality offering free services to mark the opening. Situated just 20 kilometers from the airport and 4 kilometers from the eastern province, is known for its exceptional technical infrastructure, 5-star accommodations and international standard slopes. India is celebrating its Border Security Force Raising Day today. The force was officially formed on December 1st, 1965 in the aftermath of that year's Indo-Pakistani War. The need for a specialized force to guard India's borders became evident due to consistent threat from across the borders, and the BSF was created to fulfill this significant role. The BSF is now world's largest border guarding force, securing the 6,386 kilometers long international borders with Pakistan and Bangladesh. Watch a report dedicated to the India's valiant force on this special day.
Bharat, the land of great men and women. For each generation, there is a call to serve this country. BSF Academy, a symbol of pride, valor and sacrifice. A legacy of producing some of the best soldiers who have served the country. A place where young boys and girls are molded into tough heroes. Where they discover their purpose and are made to realize that they are stronger than they think. They learn to dig deep and push through adversity, together to defend a country. But battles aren't won solely on the battlefield. Battles are won within. Over enemies of fear, over enemies of doubt. In a place where promises are kept. A promise to oneself. A promise to friends and family. A promise to 1.4 billion people. And a promise to a nation. In the heart of every soldier, you will find a promise. A promise kept forever. For that purpose, today we are celebrating BSF Raising Day. Defending our nation and its people. This is Border Security Force, duty unto death.
The Indian Navy is gearing up for a grand Navy Day celebration at Puri Beach on December 4th. Over 15 warships have anchored off the coast as part of the preparations, showcasing the Navy's operational strength. President Draupadi Murmu will inaugurate the event, which will feature over 20 demonstrations highlighting naval capabilities. The celebration promises a spectacular display of India's maritime prowess along the scenic shoreline. The joint military exercise Harimo Shakti 2024 between India and Malaysia will take place at the Bentong camp, Kuala Lumpur from December 2nd to 15. The exercise aims to enhance cooperation and interoperability between the Indian and Malaysian armies for sub-conventional operations under a UN mandate. This initiative underscores the commitment of both nations to global peacekeeping and security efforts. Still to come on DD India News Hour. World AIDS Day being observed with the theme Take the Rights Path, My Health, My Right. In badminton, Indian shuttlers Lakshya Sen, PV Sindhu to battle for top honours in Syed Modi International Tournament today. And Brussels kicked off the Christmas season with a spectacular light show. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and time now for sport. Let's begin with chess. Defending world chess champion Ding Liren of China and Indian challenger D. Gukesh will square off in Game 6 World Chess Championship 2024 on Sunday. On Saturday, the duo played out a draw in Game 5 of the to leave the players level at 2.5. The fifth game of the best of 14 match lasted 40 moves before the players agreed a draw. Ding, playing with the black pieces, admitted afterwards that he had missed a chance after a mistake by Gukesh, allowing the challenger to escape and force the draw. Ding and Gukesh have each won a game with the three others drawn. England thumped New Zealand by 8 wickets in first test at Christchurch on Sunday. Carsey's scintillating 10-wicket haul and debutant Jacob Bethel's brisk half-century helped England with a commanding 8-wicket victory. The fourth day began with New Zealand in dire straits at 155 runs for 6 wickets, holding a slim 4-run lead. Playing in just his third test, Carsey took 6 for 42 for match figures of 10 for 196 as New Zealand was bowled out for 252 in its second innings, leaving England needing only 104 runs to win. England's win was made possible by Harry Brook, whose innings of 171 in partnerships of 151 with Oli Pope and 159 with Ben Stokes propelled England to 499 in its first innings in reply to New Zealand's 348 runs. With this win, England take a 1-0 lead in the 3-match series. On to badminton now. India's male shuttler Lakshya Sen will face 4th-seeded Jason Tay of Singapore in the men's singles final at the Syed Modi International Tournament, which is being held in Lucknow. The 2022 Commonwealth Games gold medalist and 2021 World Championship bronze medalist Lakshya defeated Shogo Ogawa in the semi-final on Saturday. Meanwhile, two-time Olympic medalist and former world number 2 Indian shuttler PV Sindhu will face China's Wu Luoyu today in women's singles final. Sindhu defeated compatriot Unnati Huda in the semi-finals in straight sets on Saturday. Sindhu is now 1 win away from her third title at the Syed Modi Badminton Championship, having won in 2017 and 2022. On to soccer. La Liga leaders Barcelona's 125th anniversary celebrations were spoiled by Las Palmas, who claimed a shock 2-1 win on Saturday. They opened the scoring early in the second half when Sandro Ramirez scored a sublime goal against his former club, but the home side equalized when Rafinha netted the ball in the 61st minute. Palmas took the lead again in the 67th minute as Silva broke through the offside trap to convert a pass from Javi Munoz. Barcelona lead the La Liga table with 34 points, while the victory moved Palmas up to 14th place on 15 points. World AIDS Day is observed on December 1st each year. This year's theme, Take the Right's Path, My Health, My Right, highlights the importance of healthcare as a basic right. But how does HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, actually enter the body, and what happens when it does? What challenges do those living with HIV face, and can they ever truly overcome this disease? Today, we unravel the answers, how lives can be saved, improved and protected.
The silent attacker, known as HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, spreads in ways many don't fully understand. Most commonly, it passes through unsafe sexual contact, but it can also be transmitted via infected blood, shared needles, or from mother to a child during childbirth or breastfeeding. Yet, despite widespread myths, HIV does not spread through casual contact like touching, hugging, or sharing meals. When HIV enters the body, its mission is stealthy but devastating. The virus targets the body's immune system, specifically the CD4 cells, also known as the helper T cells. These are the body's frontline defense against infections. Once inside, the virus inserts its genetic material into the CD4 cell's nucleus, effectively hijacking the cell to replicate itself. Over time, this viral army grows silently, often without causing immediate symptoms. Years can pass before the real damage begins. Gradually, HIV destroys the immune system, leaving the body vulnerable to opportunistic infections and diseases. This is the critical stage when HIV progresses to AIDS, or acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Without treatment, AIDS severely diminishes the body's ability to fight even minor illnesses, often leading to fatal outcomes. But this is not a hopeless fight. Antiretroviral therapy, ART. These life-saving medications suppress the virus, preventing it from replicating further and allowing the immune system to rebuild. ART, when taken consistently and correctly, can prevent the progression from HIV to AIDS. ART is not just a treatment, it is a lifeline. Across the country, ART centers provide free medication, ensuring that cost is never a barrier to survival. However, the battle against HIV isn't just about the treatment, it's also about awareness and prevention. Early detection is critical. Regular testing, safe sexual practices, and caution with blood exposure are key to preventing HIV infection. The message is clear. HIV infection is not the end of life. With timely medication intervention and consistent treatment, people can live long and fulfilling lives. But it all begins with awareness, compassion, and taking the right steps towards prevention and care. This World AIDS Day, let's pledge to fight stigma, spread awareness, and ensure that everyone's right to health is protected. Because together, we can turn the tide against AIDS. Preeti Kaur for DD India.
Brussels kicked off the Christmas season with a spectacular light show at its iconic Grand Place this weekend. With the lighting of the Christmas tree and a performance by choirs, the city hopes to surpass last year's figure of 4 million visitors, according to local media. The show will carry on through December and end on January 5th, 2025. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.